I'm sure.
All right, one note that I noticed this week in the Associated Press poll, out of the top 25 teams, there's so much chaos right now, especially from the midsection up, backwards in college football, with some of these incredibly nice wins for teams that are winning that haven't. The smaller schools, the FCS schools. Out of the 25 teams in this week's Associated Press poll, off the top, Paul, don't look. You're looking now. How many teams were unranked prior to the week? 7. 7 new teams entered the poll, which goes to show you how chaotic everything might be.
Yeah, there is parity in college football, but not enough at the top that would have taken it to get this 12-team playoff a couple years ago. I think that was one of the things they would say is like, I could scream to the hilltops. There's parity in college football, but there's 4 teams that kind of live above it. But from those 4 teams down, there really is. Because, I mean, look at Wisconsin. You're not too far away from being a team that's 14 or 13-1 to a team that's firing their coach. That's how college football works right now. There's movement. It's just it hasn't really hit the upper echelon yet. But this is the reason we should have a 12-team playoff.
I think it's hit Clemson. I'd say really was it Bama, Ohio State, Georgia?
Yeah.
The unbeatables, so to speak.
And Missouri will say, hey.
Missouri could have won that game. They very well could have. They had every opportunity to win that game.
Everybody does have a bad day, and sometimes
I've noticed lately that whenever Georgia's, not blowing somebody out, it's like, oh, well, they were intentionally not trying is what I've seen an actual reporter report, like as of a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure what he said about this week's game. I guess that was Kirby just, again, trying to do everything possible to make that as hard as possible. I mean, I can believe you like making it hard on yourself to some extent a couple weeks ago, but like that gets silly. That's just being the biggest homer imaginable. But yeah, I mean, it's outside of like those top 3 that was maybe 4 when Clemson was really at the height of their superpowers. There is that pretty concrete ceiling that doesn't allow for just full blown craziness. But everywhere else, we're seeing it all throughout, the Big 12. I think the ACC's totally up for grabs. The SEC is still commandeered by a couple of teams, but then again, like how interesting could Tennessee make it potentially, or how interesting could, somebody else potentially make it? I don't know. I mean, it's going to be hard to kind of break that ceiling, but, Michigan proved last year they can get Ohio State. Can they do it this year? I don't know, but yeah, there's 3 super solid teams. And then there's a bunch of just who the hell really knows. I don't know how else to really put it other than that. And that's fun, I think.
I think you could make an argument that the Big 12 and the ACC have that little Spider-Man meme might be going on right now.
Yeah.
To the ACC, I don't know,
Pac-12,
Pac-12. The ACC has Clemson that like maybe could separate, but they weren't head and shoulders above NC State the other night. They played a really good game at home. Clemson, NC State, Wake Forest, and Florida State are all going to play each other close. Now, one of them might wind up losing all 4 of those games or all 3 of those matchups, but they're all going to play each other close. Wake Forest and Clemson played an overtime game the week before. NC State and Clemson played a really good game the other night at Death Valley. Wake Forest and Florida State played a good one in Tallahassee. Those are all going to play each other out over the time. So, yeah, they're really good. The Big 12, I think that if you're not 100% locked in, somebody can just jump up and pop you in the Big 12 any week. And the Pac-12, like while USC is the highest ranked team any week right now, they're not by any means invincible.
Man, I watched them the other night, and Caleb Williams really is special. Like he's a special talent, but he got really lazy because they were just having their way. He kept going to Jordan Addison, and he just threw the laziest pick that was. It was like he thought that he thought that they were untouchable for a moment, and that it didn't matter. They could basically just get away with whatever they wanted to get away with. So he just threw this floater over to Addison that got picked off. They kind of they lost their focus there. But when they were dialed in, you see why there's the whole USC is back and all of that. But we're about to see. I mean, they're going to play Washington State this weekend. They still got to play Utah here in the next couple of weeks. UCLA here in a month or two, or in between a month and 2 over the next few weeks. That'll be an interesting test for them as well. But yeah, USC looks good. They do look very, very explosive on offense, especially, but they're not unbeatable. So yeah, I think the Pac is kind of a question mark between 2 or 3 teams right now.
Missouri had Georgia. They had them in trouble. I just Googled what is Missouri's record against the number 1 ranked team in the country? And most people don't have very good records against the number 1 ranked team in the country. There's a reason they were ranked number 1. Never forget the 97 team that gave up the kick 6 to Nebraska, who eventually won the national title. There's been other games. This is a story from 2018 that against top-ranked teams, they were 0-13. Now, I couldn't find anything else other than that. They have been so close, and they just, for some reason, seem to be the school that has been very close to having that win, and they had Georgia in trouble. It did not work out.
I think the parity's good. I think parity keeps you interested, and for all the talk about, well, we can't expand the playoff, there'll be too many blowouts. It's like, well, maybe if there's a bit more parity, then we won't be so concerned about that. I still think that's a silly argument to not have more opportunities for teams, but that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, I mean, there's but even some of the superpowers that I just mentioned, even they have shown their weaknesses at times. And I think with Georgia, that was a very fortunate scenario for them to walk out of there, because that would have been something else, man, had Mizzou pulled that off. But, yeah, I like that there's a little bit more uncertainty across the country right now.
On the text line, Raymond